What is going on, everybody? We are back for night two of the NFL draft. I'm super excited. If you guys have followed me for quite some time now on various platforms, Twitter, etc., since I started the YouTube channel, you guys know that like day two is kind of just my jam. I think that day two is the best night really of the year for me. It's weird because historically speaking, I think the Steelers have always taken some of my favorite players on day two of the draft. That's just how things have kind of worked out. And then I also just like that we get two rounds instead of one. The first night is a little bit of a tease, but I'm really excited about this. Even though the Steelers right now only have one pick in the third round after trading their second round pick for DK Metcalf. So kind of wanted to talk about just, how the first round transpired, answer a bunch of questions. I will be on here literally until the first pick starts, so roughly about an hour. And we'll kind of see where we go. So you guys let me know what y'all want to talk about. But my guy Gino already in here. I say we got already close to 40, 50 of our closest friends and family. I appreciate you guys very much for tapping in with me. Damian Martinez, you are a Pittsburgh Steeler. Let us pray. Let us pray, man. I love me some Damian Martinez. A little bummed they didn't show a little bit more interest in him, at least publicly through the process. But there's always some surprises. You never know. They did bring in a ton of running backs to the facility before draft weekend. So I don't know. We'll see where they go. Of course, if you guys haven't already, I'm not going to rehash all of my thoughts on the Derek Harmon pick because I did a full recap after the draft concluded last night. I wrote about Derek Harmon, did a full scouting report for SteelersNow.com. Overall, though, very pleased with the pick. Was my number 22 overall player. I like Harmon. I think he has the potential to be a good pro. That's just kind of where I sit with that. You guys can go, all of my thoughts out there are already out there on the player. So overall, I think it sets the Steelers up to go a couple different directions in day two of the draft. I would anticipate, just based on the amount of players that they brought in for pre-draft visits in this kind of range of the draft, quarterback is going to be a heavy consideration here. Running back is going to be a heavy consideration. I would think that those two positions in general are probably the most likely outcomes for this. So we'll see who's there. Of course, we've got way over 50 picks to kind of go with this, but we'll definitely see. We'll see what happens. Yes, very good shout here for those of you guys that don't know already. Derek Harmon. His mom's been having some health trouble. She ended up passing away last night shortly after he was drafted. Just an absolutely horrific thing for a player or anybody to have to go through. My thoughts and prayers go out to him, his family. It is incredible to me that he is at the facility right now doing a meet and greet Q&A press conference with the local media. Shout out to him, man, because he's a better man than I am. I don't know that I could. Everybody's been through losses through various times in their life, and I can't imagine how challenging that is. But as if Harmon wasn't already an impressive player and somebody that I think Steelers fans were already going to love him just for the skill set that he brings to the table, I'm sure this personal tragedy is going to allow a lot of the fan base to kind of wrap their arms around him and really try to uplift him and, push him along throughout his career. So hopefully this is something that he's doing okay with from a mental health standpoint, or at least as good as he can do through this kind of hard time. And I'm optimistic, man. I'm excited to get him here in Pittsburgh. Like I said, my mind just keeps gravitating to making sure that he's all right on a personal level. But yeah, just kind of going to go through some questions. I appreciate you guys tapping in with me. We've got 75 people here. We accumulated over 50 new subscribers over the past 24, 48 hours. I'm really excited about that. So if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. I hope that you enjoy the content, enjoy the community that we've built over here. We just talk ball, man. No drama, no nonsense, no clickbait. We're just sickos obsessed with the sport. So I'm glad to have you guys along. And I appreciate all the feedback that I've gotten over on the content just over the past week. Just as a reminder, my top 100 big board, my best remaining players is on SteelersNow.com. You can find my big board, my final mock draft, all that stuff. You can find that in the link of this in the description of this video as well. Going to go through some questions really quick here. Let's see. Now we just need to take a quarterback. Yeah, I mean, they're going to take a quarterback. It's just really a matter of time. Do they do so here in the third round? Do they wait a little bit? At this point in the draft, you're probably not going to be able to get a starter if you wait until 82. I would be kind of surprised if one of those guys dropped. Jalen Milroe still unselected. Shedeur Sanders hasn't came off the board yet. I would anticipate that at least one of those guys is probably going to go in the first couple picks of the second round, but we'll see. Couple teams in particular filled their needs last night at the quarterback position. The Titans got Cam Ward. The Giants inexplicably traded all the way up to come get Jackson Dart in the first round. But, Sanders is my QB2, Jalen Milroe, my QB3, still on the board. It's a long way to go, though, to 82. So definitely some thoughts there. Aaron's talking about he thinks George Pickens is gone. Diana Rossini reported that the Steelers have received trade calls on George Pickens. I don't really necessarily think that that's breaking news. Pickens is going into the last year of his rookie contract. I don't necessarily think that the Steelers are going to be, just begging to give him away to just anybody for any type of asking price. But I do think they'll listen to calls, and we'll see what type of offers they get. I don't necessarily think it's anything to worry too much about yet. There's definitely a possibility that something like that happens. My only request, because I feel like I've talked about this whole situation at length too, so I'm not going to regurgitate all that information. I am open to dealing him if for the right price. I would have to get at the very, very least like an early third round pick in return. That type of value to dealing because he's really talented. I don't necessarily think he's in their long-term plans just based on what I've been told and their subsequent actions beyond that. But at the same time, I don't want to just give him away for free or for less value. I would just rather, go into the season and see what he and Metcalf can do together at that point and just kind of play the comp pick game. Of course, the risk in that is, your free agent signings can outweigh that. And then, you got to wait an additional year. So really for this, like getting ahead of the drama that could potentially ensue around training camp, he's going to be one of several players that are going to be looking for a new contract. I know Deshaun Elliott's looking for a new contract. Obviously, TJ Watt is the big headliner. He's looking for a hefty extension as well. Just trying to reduce the amount of drama surrounding the team more than anything else. But we'll see what happens with Pickens if they keep him. I don't think it's something that's going to necessarily hurt my feelings. I'm going to be happy to have him. If they trade him, I won't be nearly as emotionally attached to that situation as I feel like most people will be. But let's go, Jake. Let's go. You're Vincent. What's up? What are our options if we do trade Pickens away? Yeah, I mean, if they did go that route, I would look at Alec Manor, Stanford wide receiver. I just think that he's going to be a quality Z receiver at the next level. I think he's got some untapped potential, was productive in Stanford despite that environment. Pretty good athlete, he's got good speed, can get over the top of people, has some ability to make catches away from his frame, contested catch guy, not always super consistent. Hands can be a little shaky at times, but I think he's got some good lower body flexibility to get open. The reason why I particularly like Alec Manor is just that I think that he is really, really good as a blocker. He is fantastic. I thought he was the best in the class in that regard. So they haven't really necessarily shown a ton of interest in him, but that would be my preferred player now that, Matthew Golden's off the board, ended up getting selected by the Packers. I thought that was a good pick for them. Who do you hope we draft in round three, and who do you think we'll draft? I mean, it's kind of hard to tell you guys who I want them to draft. I mean, some of the names that I would consider, a lot of their pre-draft visitors are guys, at least in this day two range, are guys that I like. I like Caleb Johnson. I think he's a great scheme fit. Don't think he's going to be around at this point in time. Azaria Thomas, cornerback from Florida State. Like him a lot as well. Don't see him sliding this far. I think really with the running back situation, that's where it kind of gets interesting because there's a log jam of running backs, really fringe day two, early day three guys that we could talk about. Bashal Tootin, Virginia Tech, explosive play generator, home run speed. I mean, this guy's got a lot of experience running wide zone, mid zone. I think the two qualifications that they're looking for in a running back to add to the equation with Jalen Warren, with Kenneth Gainwell, is having somebody that can break more explosive plays and then getting somebody familiar with their most popular rushing concepts. And Tootin kind of checks both those boxes. He's been productive. I think he's got a little bit more balance, a little more leg drive than maybe some would suggest just given his size. But got to take care of the football. If he doesn't do that, he's not going to be on the field very much longer. 9 fumbles over the past 2 years, a significant issue. Why no? If we reach midway into the second round and Sanders is still there, do you make a move? I mean, he's the number 34 player on my big board, so I mean, the value would definitely match up. It would depend on what it would take to go up and get him, though. And also, I kind of just think if you're taking a quarterback, I just want to be confident that the organization has a lot of faith in him being the guy. And I'm just not really sure on how I would feel about the messaging of that they passed on Shedeur to take a defensive tackle. And I like Derek Harmon. He was higher on my board. That's what I like. If it was truly just between Derek Harmon and Shedeur Sanders, I would have taken Derek Harmon over him just because that's how I had it on my board that I constructed before the draft started. So I would have done that even though I understand the need and how are the Steelers going to fill that moving forward. Who knows? But I struggle with the fact that they would like come back up and get him, because if you really valued him like that, you thought he could be the answer to that position, wouldn't you just take him at 21? Like, I don't know. It just kind of would confuse me a little bit, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if they traded back up into the second round, depending on how far he fell. It really seems like, I don't know. I'm sure you guys follow Adam Schefter, so you guys have probably seen this already, but it seems like people are like legitimately throwing out there that he could last all the way into the third round. Like the Browns, Tyler Shuck's name's been thrown around. Jalen Milroe been thrown around there as well. It legitimately sounds like he may not be the third player at his position picked, which is interesting for sure. We'll see what happens with that. But Steven, I really appreciate the super chat. Thank you very, very much. Jake, your big board is from 2024. Is it really? Are you talking about in the link in the description? If not, I'll change it. Not right now, but I'll change it after the fact. But my fault. Could the Steelers get a good running back in the fourth round if they take a developmental quarterback at 3? Again, thank you very much for the super chat. And yes, they can get a good running back in the fourth round because this position is just absolutely loaded. Bashal Tutin was a guy that snuck into my top 100. Him, Devin Neal had some of the earliest fourth round grades that I had given. They've been linked to Tutin. There are some other guys that they brought in for visits. I think Dylan Samson is a guy that they'll consider in the third round tonight from Tennessee. Really creative runner, pretty good contact balance, runs with tempo, pacing, good vision, has some explosive play capabilities. He's a young player too. So I would keep an eye on him if they go back in the third round. I don't think he's going to make it out of day 2, though. He's a pretty good player. If they waited until day 3, maybe a guy like DJ Giddens could intrigue them out of Kansas State. Giddens, to me, was a really difficult evaluation, to be honest with you. I'm very mixed on him. I didn't even feel confident in where I landed with him, to be honest with you. But he was a top 15 back for me. I could see them being interested in him as well. So he would be a name that I could look at. In terms of like developmental quarterbacks in the third round, it is tough. Like, I think that Will Howard's a fine player. I think he's going to have a really lengthy career. I think he can be a good backup. I don't necessarily see like starter type ceiling with him. I could be wrong, obviously, but I don't know that I would love taking him at 83. Just depending on how the board looked, there would probably be other players that I would definitely prefer there that they've been linked to. Howard was a guy that was outside of my top 100. I think I finished with a late fourth round grade on him. I'd have to go back and look real quick, though. But what are your thoughts on how Harmon and Benton would look side by side? Both of them have had trouble finishing, but can they yeah, I mean, for sure. I think the big thing for me is I like that when they get into like 4-man fronts and you have to play an over front, if Harmon gets bumped into the A gap or as a shade, like you're not going to have to worry about him just getting blown over to the adjacent gap. That was a big problem that Benton and Ogunjobi had together, as neither one of them are necessarily great against double teams. They can kind of get washed out against the run. Harmon's doesn't really have that problem. He's got really good upper body strength, holds his ground very well against double teams, can occasionally slip them. Really good lock shed peak technique. Good. I mean, I just don't really have a lot of concerns, I feel like, about his run defense in general and how he'll hold up in that regard. So, yeah, I mean, the finishing stuff is what it is. I think that Harmon definitely has some stiffness in his lower half. You see it when he's asked to gear down, change directions, try to corral a ball carrier. I don't know that. I mean, that's not really something that you can improve. More so something you can work around. Not the bendiest or most flexible guy for sure, but he is going to be disruptive. Like, he has enough hops to get on blockers' edges. And I think the pass rush plan has more upside. I mentioned this in my piece on SteelersNow.com, but it wasn't. I don't know if it was something I talked about in the YouTube video earlier this morning or not, or late last night or not. But, Harmon, there are slight tweaks that he can make to his game. I feel like that could take him up a notch as a pass rusher. And that's kind of where I think the upside particularly comes from. I think he's a really strong player. He has this kind of weird thing he does where, like, when he's in a 4-point stance, he can play with good pad level and generate some knockback in the pocket. When he plays from a 3-point stance, he's more explosive in his like short area burst off the ball, but he just like his pad level rises. So it kind of saps his ability to generate push. But yeah, I mean, that stuff right there is like fixable stuff. But in terms of like the tightness in the lower body and the missed tackle, I'm not saying he's going to miss 27% of his tackles in the pros. I think that's an outrageous number, but I don't necessarily, I don't have a lot of confidence that he's going to be a high level finisher. But still, like, going to be a good player in my opinion. So running back first, Cody. Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand why people would want a running back. I just think that that's an easier player that you could get, starting caliber player in this type of draft with the amount of depth. So that's crazy about his. Yeah, I can't believe, man. I cannot believe it. Let's see here. How easy or hard will it be to convince ourselves that DK is better than the wide receivers we could have gotten with easily? I mean, look, I did a full film room on the channel on DK Metcalf. So if any of you guys haven't seen it, please go check that out afterwards, after the stream. Give you guys something to do until the Steelers are on the clock. Went in depth on his strengths, weaknesses. DK is great at a very refined, slim menu of things. He does things that no one, like hardly anyone else in the sport, can do. He also has some really frustrating or maddening inconsistencies to his game. That being said, there is nobody on day 2 of the draft that I think even has close to his upside. That's just my opinion. I'm definitely lower on this wide receiver class in general than a lot of people are. Even like the best wide receiver remaining on my board is Kyle Williams from Washington State. Totally different player, more of a route runner guy. He has some burst. He can get down the field and stretch the field for you good after the catch. But again, he's undersized. So I think that there is some probably limitations that can be put on his ceiling too. And it definitely seems like he's not going to go until at least midway through today. Would like to see him with the Titans though, to reunite with Cam Ward. That's kind of some fan fiction I've been dreaming up. So Jennifer said she just drove through Green Bay, no traffic at all. I'm shocked. What are the odds that the traffic's going to be absolutely outrageous in Pittsburgh next year? Speaking of that, I think that is going to be a really, really fun time, man. Like, the draft being in Pittsburgh is just something I'm already looking forward to a year out, especially knowing that the Steelers could potentially be taking a quarterback in the first round. Man, that's going to be wild. I can only imagine like the hype. Like, you guys remember when Matthew Golden got taken last night and like the crowd was just going crazy and he's pumping them up. Like, could you imagine that being in Pittsburgh next year with a quarterback? It's crazy. Yeah, Chiefs getting Simmons. Obviously, Simmons ended up being a top 5 player for me just off film. I don't have access to the medicals. I understand that the torn patella thing is something that can definitely halt a player's career, and I don't play doctor, so I don't know anything about that. But I will say, just on the film, it is potentially a gift from God that the Chiefs just got a blindside protector that talented in the footwork, the independent hand usage paired with the anchor ability. Simmons' tape was absolutely dominant this past year. I liked Armand Bimbu a lot. He was my top-ranked tackle. Simmons may have honestly been ranked above him if he would have stayed healthy, because we would have got to see him against better competition. So let's see. Makes no sense to trade George for a third or worse when the comp pick. That's not necessarily always true. That's a more difficult conversation than anything else. And even like a comp pick, I think there is like a big, I think, misunderstanding about that, because the comp pick is going to be like, let's just say the comp pick is 110. If you get a third round pick, what I'm talking about, like an early third at the very latest, you're talking about getting the 70th pick. The difference in player that you can get in most drafts at like 65 to 70 and outside the top 100 is completely different. It's a full round and some change different. So yeah, and I definitely understand, I understand that like people have a heavy attachment to George and would be, upset or not a fan of them trading him for sure. So is Samson the move at 83? I don't know, man. I think if he's there, I definitely think they'll consider him. I really like Samson. He was number 72 on my board. The blurb that I wrote about him, I kind of already touched on this, but Intellectual youngster, runs with great tempo in between the tackles. Smaller frame allows him to get skinny through the hole. Tiniest of creases in high traffic areas. Samson accelerates to his top gear in a flash. Creativity as a runner is what truly stands out, particularly some of the spin moves that leave defenders in the dust. Heavier box counts await him in the NFL, but it's unfair to typecast him into simply a speedster. So yeah, I think he's way more than just like a speed back or anything like that. He's just more talented than that, in my opinion. The box count thing is going to be interesting, and the scheme fit's going to be interesting. They ran a lot of power, a lot of counter. They didn't run a lot of outside zones, so you're making a big projection there. And then also with that is, he faced a lot of 5-man boxes in college, just because if you've ever watched Tennessee play, it's like a completely fake offense. They line the receivers up literally on the sideline, and they spread everything out. It's all from the gun, and it's totally different. So it is going to be an adjustment for him, but I like the vision and the tempo. So I believe that he can make that transition for sure. Mr. Robo, nice new backdrop. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm in the, this is actually my office / daughter and son's playroom that I'm in right now. I'm in the process of redoing some things over the summer. I've got a couple projects that I wanted to do, some shelving. I've got some, I used to collect a ton of memorabilia like way before I started doing like content creation. I don't do it as much anymore for various different reasons. But I've got some stuff I'd like to put up and kind of display like when I'm on camera and stuff. Wanted to get a better backdrop. I know some people typically give me crap about that, but I'm just way more focused on like talking ball than the presentation aspect of it, which is not necessarily always the smartest thing. I understand that. So, but yeah, appreciate the love. Damian Martinez, the best pick we could make. I'm telling you, man, I love me some Damian, man. I love it. I like Jack Best. Yeah, Best is a tough one. He's got a lot of fans, man. He does. I know Matt Harmon from Reception Perception really loves him. He was a guy that was inside my top 100. I do think I'm a little bit lower on him than the consensus. I just kind of wonder if the lack of speed is going to cause people to kind of sit on his some of those in breakers and out breakers that he's really good at, kind of jump those because he doesn't have the burst to kind of threaten guys vertically. So, yeah, I think the best path, in my opinion, for Besh is, can he become a more physical, a more consistent blocker in the slot to where you can really unlock that kind of power slot archetype? That's really my vision for him. But I don't think I saw enough good things as a blocker on a consistent basis to really feel comfortable about that projection. Now, guys can get better at blocking in the league, 100%. And heck, effort's like half the battle, right? But Jordan Clark's going to be the pick in round 7. Book it. Yeah, it's really funny. I was talking about my mock draft in the video yesterday, and I was saying that I was trying to find the guy that had Steelers connections, like a coach, a former player, or NFL bloodlines. I ended up going with Ray Mickens' son, RJ Mickens, safety from Clemson, because I did kind of want to throw a safety in my mock for fun. Jordan Clark is a guy that I think they would look at. I think they could probably get Clark as a priority free agent, though, outside the draft. But Clark's played a lot of ball, was at Arizona State, I believe, before Notre Dame, has some slot experience, too. The Steelers, like, they traditionally have not gave two craps about that slot corner position. So they would probably be elated to go sign another unrestricted free agent and try to see if they can make something work, give him a shot in mini camp, see if he can carve out a role from himself, compete with Beanie Bishop. I could definitely see that. So do you buy the speculation? Yeah, I just talked about this, Will. I don't know. That seems crazy to me. I mean, Shedeur had quite literally a mid-second round grade for me. So I thought that he was like a developmental starter that could be a quarterback that you could win with. That's kind of where that falls on my grading scale. And pick 83 in this draft, that seems kind of crazy, but I do understand. I guess, certain teams maybe looking ahead to next year's draft. And if you're not going to take him in the first, is it worth, the hassle maybe that comes with his personality? I don't know. I think if he's there at 83, I would definitely take him, though. Because, at that point, like, what do you have to lose? There's no – that level of investment on a potential quarterback that has the accuracy that he does and some of the other things I've talked about just with his scouting report, I would definitely do it. So, yeah, Jake, I'll change the link. And I'll tweet all that stuff out on my Twitter. I know hopefully most of you guys probably follow me over there, but I'll tweet all that stuff out. The big board again before we get started on night 2. So let's see here. Okay, why is no one talking about Milroe to the Jets? Yeah, I mean, it could. I'd be interested to see where they're going to prioritize that position. I mean, they took another offensive lineman. I don't necessarily think that was a surprise. That's typically what the Jets do in the first round these days, but I don't know. Noah feels too duplicative with Roman and Cal. I agree. I mean, I think he's probably a little bit better version of like Roman Wilson. He graded out a little bit better than for me than Roman, but kind of similar prospects in my eyes. But he's another guy. I think a lot of people are just higher on him for sure. We live. Yes, Gino is a good quarterback for sure. So let's see. Would Alfred Collins still be a good pickup for a nose hybrid, or would they be better off waiting later and getting a pure nose? I'd love to get Alfred Collins, especially, but I think he's probably going to go off the board right before the Steelers pick again at 83, and then it is kind of weird if you took him at 83. Where is he going to play as a rookie? I'm not necessarily too fussed about that. I could see the long term vision, knowing Cam's getting up there in age, but again, it seems like maybe the Steelers are just more content with Keanu Benton at nose tackle, so maybe not too much of a need. So I think Bryce, I don't necessarily think that he's not. I don't think that Tomlin isn't necessarily interested in a nose tackle specifically. I think that what he's been really consistent about is that he's not interested in like a early down run plugger type who can't rush the passer. To be fair, that is kind of Alfred Collins because he can't. He has no. It pained me to leave him outside of my top 50 because I think he's the best run defender in the class. Like it is unbelievable the type of leverage that he plays with. I mean, he's excellent. And then, but like the only thing that he offers from a value perspective, rushing the passer, is he's really good at getting his hands in the passing lanes. Bunch of batted down passes. He's got freakishly long arms. I don't know what percentile his wingspan is, but it's up there. So I mean that's valuable. Every team could use a guy like this. Every 3-4 team would love to have a guy that can play nose, can play 3 tech. He's got decent experience, but playing the SEC, good competition level, plenty of good tape. But again, like if you haven't, he's been a known commodity. He has been playing behind some better players at Texas. Byron Murphy got drafted early last year, but at the same time, like, could he develop into a better pass rusher? Sure, but it's just, man, there's just no flashes right now, so it's hard to get on board with him in that regard. So happy Friday, Daniel. I appreciate y'all tapping in with me. We've got 215 people. So literally almost as many people as we did in round one. So I appreciate you guys coming back, kicking it with your boy. If you guys could, if everybody could just hit that like button for me really quick. It's just a free, simple, easy way to support the channel. I would be greatly appreciated. And if you're tapping in for the first time, welcome again to all the new subscribers from over the past couple of days. I sincerely appreciate the feedback that I've gotten. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, all that stuff. I'd love to see them go safety or edge. I feel like we need to strip the D if we're going to lean into Mason A-Rod. Yeah, I got some insight yesterday. Multiple people reached out to me with positive things about the Aaron Rodgers development, saying that the Steelers feel really good about that. So something happened recently with that to make them tell me that. So not necessarily that I think that Rodgers changes the direction of their team or their outlooks like a ton next year. I don't think like he's going to be the guy that's going to lead them on a playoff run, but I do think I do ultimately think that Rodgers is going to play in Pittsburgh next year. I feel pretty good about that. So we'll see. I'm interested to see like the edge stuff. I know Dulac tweeted that out. Like, what edge rusher do you guys even want them to like take? And I guess why, or what would they provide? Because you've got the 3 edge rushers. I know Watt's getting up there a little bit in age, but I still think he's going to get a contract extension. Alex Highsmith's on a big deal. Nick Herbig was really good last year when he got the chance to play. They need a 4th edge rusher, but if we're talking about taking one in the 3rd round, that's not a lot of snaps to go around. I mean, I could be on board with it depending on who it is. I like the edge class. I mean, I had over 15 guys in my top 100. I'm just curious about like what type of edge rusher are you guys wanting? Like, do you guys think that would, fit the Steelers? Throw me some names. I will say this, if he lasted, because I'm higher on him than consensus, I don't think he'd be there at 83. But if Braden Swinson from LSU was there, I would definitely do that because I like his game quite a bit. So What odds would you give them into getting back into round two? It's going to be tough. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's impossible, though. I mean, they've got a bunch of comp picks next year. Could they mortgage one of their picks next year to add a day two selection this year? It's possible, or trade up into day two. I definitely think that that's possible. But I don't necessarily know that I would call it likely. Eric, that I do agree with. But I don't think that is the entirety of the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to factor in like the contract, the fact that he's going to be a free agent next year, all that stuff, and that the Steelers aren't necessarily like in a win now situation to compete this year, at least in my opinion. DB, we got Derek. Any chance we trade this and next year's third for a second this year? Saints have 40 and 50. Chiefs. That's a scenario I hadn't really talked about. Who would you be going up to get? That kind of to me seems like maybe Saints have 40 and 50. She said, that 40 to 50 range kind of seems like Jalen Milroe territory to me. I feel like that's what you're hinting at. But yeah, I mean, that would be kind of cool. I'd be down for that. I mean, they are going to hopefully have a third round comp pick next year. So that's nice. As rarely happens, Steelers got Harmon, the exact player I wanted. Now I can't complain. Best player available next two. Yep. I mean, I really do. I tweeted this out, and it seems like some people said I was crazy, but just me. I feel like the fan base is really, really on board with this selection. I can't really remember too many years where there was, at least on the comments on my videos, my mentions, my messages that I got after the pick was made, it was overwhelmingly positive. I think that's a good thing. Seems like Steeler Nation really rocks with Harmon as a player. I know they're going to rock with him once he puts that jersey on, and especially everything that the personal tragedy is going through right now. I think everybody's going to really try to rally around him. So, yeah. Yep. Pickens contract. I'm going to be so pissed if we don't get Jalen Milroe coming on Steelers. Yeah, I mean, I will say this. Get somehow finding a way to get Milroe would be it'd be fun. Like, he's the lottery ticket, right? I've heard several analysts, Daniel Jeremiah, others kind of call him that as well, but it'd be fun. I think it's definitely a high upside, swing. And even like that was the thing with me with like Milroe in particular. The round one thing, it's just way too risky. I think he's got, significant issues that he's going to have to develop that I'm not necessarily sure easily fixable with the accuracy, the footwork, things like that. But I do see a ton of upside. And when you're talking about a franchise that doesn't have a quarterback on the roster right now that's like starter capable, I view Mason Rudolph as a backup. I think that you do. I think it's easy to come to the conclusion that they should continue to take swings. That's why even if this third round pick is like Will Howard, Kyle McCord, guys that I think are just like backups in the league, I understand like wanting to do that, take that swing, because if it's Mason, if it's Aaron Rodgers, like there's a chance that those guys could potentially play McCord, Howard a couple games this year. You could give them a little bit of a trial run, and then you still got the draft capital that you've accumulated to go make a move next year for a guy in the first round. So. What do you think? Who do you think gets Milroe? I really do. I think I would assume he's gonna be taken early on day two. The Browns, I've seen some Tyler Shuck stuff there. I know that there's been some Jalen Milroe smoke at that point in the draft as well. So, but yeah, shot at drafting a franchise quarterback in Pittsburgh is pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm just using that as an example. 97, 105 is the same range of what I'm talking about. It's taking Will Johnson. Will Johnson's not going in the third round. Like, unless his knee is just completely screwed, and at that point, it would almost be one of those things where you just wouldn't touch him at all. But I mean, Will Johnson was 18th on my big board. I didn't think the film was nearly as clean as it was, especially like his freshman, early sophomore year. But there's some stuff with Will Johnson kind of flirting around with personality, like how engaged was he last year? I don't want to say toughness, but his willingness to play through some of the injuries, like how banged up really was he, all that stuff. Cleveland will somehow find a way to F that up. Oh my gosh, I cannot. I've literally been smiling for the last 24 hours since they did that stupid trade. I almost cussed. But I cannot believe they traded away from Travis Hunter. I mean, ultimate Browns is the Browns moment. I thought it was just a baffling decision. Baffling. So, but I'm sure all of you guys are really happy about that because y'all don't have to face the best player in the draft for the next, 10 years. So, Yeah, the first thing I thought about was this is Julio 2.0. The Browns traded down away from Julio Jones. Falcons came up and got him. Julio's about to get a gold jacket in 5 years. The Browns drafted Brandon Weeden. Some other players that nobody even knows who they are. So, yeah. Yes, third round comp pick is more like a fourth. Yes. Let's hope more quarterback fans going to pitch a fit when they take Samson. I mean, there are certain quarterbacks like I wouldn't take Samson over Shedeur or Milroe. I would take Samson though over. I would take him over Howard, McCord, insert whoever other person you want to talk about. So. Let's see. I don't see the point in trading picks right now. Control value. Kind of already talked about that. Where's Jamari Caldwell ranked on your board? Is he a possible pick? He is. I would love to reunite Caldwell and Harmon, to be honest with you. I think that would be super fun, especially if maybe Caldwell got into the fourth. He is in my top 100 big board. Let me look at where he actually landed. I want to say it was in the like 90. Let's see. 89. Kind of the blurb that I had on Caldwell. Tirelessly energetic nose tackle with a firm base to handle double teams. Shows good block recognition. Surprisingly nimble for a big fella. Caldwell's height gives him natural leverage. There were some very intriguing flashes of him bull rushing a center into oblivion. Most notably in the Washington game, finding the appropriate playing weight could be a concern for teams, but there's untapped potential here. Yeah, Caldwell was a guy that I think that I had heard some things about, the Steelers being interested in him, but I'm not really sure what the range was, if he was a fallback option, if they couldn't get a defensive tackle in the first round. Would they double dip at defensive tackle? I don't necessarily think that that's crazy if it was on day 3. I think double dipping back-to-back and 1 and 3 is depending on what the board looks like. It would still be kind of weird just because of the other needs that they have. I mean, they do still kind of need more help on offense. They need another running back, in my opinion. Big questions at quarterback, which whatever, but let's see. Absolutely. We will. I have not drank a sip of alcohol. I've actually only drank one time, I think, since I've turned 21 or 22. So the only time I've drank was actually my wedding. If they got Jalen Milroe at pick 83, we will be breaking my sobriety and going live on the channel immediately after. So if you guys want to see me a little turned up, pray for Jalen Milroe at 83, because I would be very happy about that, just because I think that is very much in line with the type of like swing for the fences moves that a franchise like this needs to be taking in this kind of time of transition. DB, do you see any promise this team will consider a true nose tackle later? I think they would consider one in the later rounds for sure. It's kind of like what I was saying earlier. I think that Tomlin's comments on the nose tackle position is he just doesn't believe in taking one early unless they can rush the passer, just because the value on those players aren't great. Let's see here. Okay. I have had some, I just want to let y'all know, if I do like randomly just shut off, it's because my computer, I have been having some technical difficulties with my computer. I'll probably stream for another 10 minutes or so, try to get to as many questions as I can, but it's weird. You guys and wide receivers that block. I know, man, but it is important. We saw it last year, how important that stuff is. Got to have somebody that can do the dirty work, especially if you're playing in like today's NFL. It's not as important if you're like one of these like spread teams that likes to play in a bunch of 3x1, 2x2 shotgun. It's not as important. But when you're playing in this system specifically, this scheme, when you're playing a lot more closer to the formation with the condensed splits, got to have somebody that can block. And they don't have that right now on the roster, that at least with the size that I think they need. So let's see. What about Bruner's son? Yeah, he's kind of intriguing. I would consider him in the 7th round. I'm not sure if he would actually make it there, but I would anticipate that would be something they would look at. He's got the special teams background, tested pretty well, all that stuff. My guy Quentin tapping in right here. Let's see if I can select this message. Xavier Watts at pick 83. That'd be kind of interesting. I like Xavier Watts. He was one of the first I think I had an early 3rd round grade on him. So, yeah, I mean, he was a fringe like top 50 guy for me. So, yeah, I like Xavier Watts. That would be nice. He's got the ball skills, former converted receiver. triggers on things well, reads the field well, good instincts. Tackling can be a little shaky. He's another guy that's got some stiffness. I feel like in his lower half, not an overwhelming athlete, but definitely a good player. Connor, we kind of talked about this. Do you think the Steelers try to get another day 2 pick? I do think that they will consider it depending on who's on the board. I think they're going to listen to calls. They could potentially trade up. Maybe they mortgage one of their picks from next year. But I also think there is definitely a possibility where they just stick and pick at 83. So, all right, let's see. I do appreciate all of the comments very much. Trying to get to as many of these as I can. Steel City Stoner with the super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I heard the Steelers may be interested in Watson from Florida. You talking about the big nose tackle, like the 400-pound guy? Is that the one that you're talking about? That would be like, I guess, the prototypical big nose tackle. I think that would make the fan base go wild, right? Probably doesn't offer a ton as a pass rusher. I didn't actually study Watson because he just wasn't high enough on the consensus board to where I felt like he was going to get drafted at a point where I needed to watch him. I have seen him play before just from watching Florida a decent amount in the SEC. So I don't think that's crazy, though. Maybe 6th, 7th round. What is he, Chad, if you guys don't mind, what is he on the consensus board now? Like, I'm pretty sure, like, when I looked at the defensive tackles, he wasn't even on anywhere crazy. Caleb Johnson at 83. Man, that would be crazy. I see a bunch of people talking about Caleb Johnson now. You guys know my thoughts on Caleb Johnson. Absolutely terrific scheme fit. I think the explosive play capacity with him is good. I'm not too worried about the 40-yard dash and stuff. He plays fast. He bends the arc fast. I know Arthur Smith would absolutely love him. Thoughts on picking Charles Grant III? I'm a huge fan. Solidify our tackle situation. Yeah, I mean, that would be something that I would consider too. The only thing about Grant is I do think that he's a guy still relatively raw, and they already have a raw left tackle that they don't really trust, or at least I don't trust. So do you trust them to develop another player with that type of profile? Not really sure, but they have done a decent amount of work on him. They brought him in for a pre-draft visit. 83 kind of feels like the appropriate value for him. So, I mean, I guess I would be open to that depending on what the board looks like. Let's see here. All right, so we've got a couple more minutes here. I want to try to get to, Caleb Johnson, just for talking point's sake, is 38th on my big board. So he was RB3 for me, just ahead of TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson seems like a lock at 33. Is that being talked about right now? I'm assuming that there's probably some rumors on social media that I'm not privy to just because I've been busy doing the Steelers Afternoon Drive podcast. What are you doing if Winston? Are we talking about Kevin Winston? If we're talking about Kevin Winston, man, I'm sprinting that card up. Okay, let's talk about this real quick before I got to jump off here. The players that would make me break my sobriety at 83, if they got Kevin Winston, Jalen Milroe, Zaire Thomas, Caleb Johnson, like at 83, any of those guys would be nice. Maybe require me to take a shot. So, yeah, we'll talk about that. So, Nicholas crushing the draft coverage again this year, man. I appreciate you. Thank you, Nick, for becoming a channel member and just all of the continued support, really from all of you guys. I cannot tell you all enough just how much I really appreciate the continued support on the channel for my written work. Just looking at like how far like we've kind of continued to push the envelope. I'm just really proud of like the community that we built. And I just want to make sure, especially in settings like this where we, do some fun stuff like live streams before the draft, that I am being very open about how appreciative I am about the platform that I have, the community that we built. You guys do an absolutely great job, supporting my content, make it worth it. And I really enjoy doing this kind of stuff with you all. So it wouldn't be possible without you. So thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate it. So let's see here. Let's get to a couple more here, and then I gotta hop off. We need a DB Lombardi crossover next year. I trust y'all scouting. Who's Lombardi, Bryce? You have to send me, shoot me his stuff on Twitter. I'm not familiar with the name, but I mean, I'm down to do crossovers with pretty much everybody. I mean, you guys have probably seen. I know you guys watched like Locked On and All Steelers Talk, Steelers Now, Afternoon Drive. I was on the Fan earlier today, so I'm definitely open to like doing some different things, and I just enjoy talking ball. So whatever I can do, whenever I get the opportunity to do that, I'm definitely down. Smitty gave away home tickets for last night right after the game, so a lot of folks will be on that live chat tonight. Yeah, Smitty don't know how to play the game, does he? Yeah, if you guys are looking for somebody that's going to stream during the draft, I'm not. I'm going to have some company over. I'm going to get some stuff done. Just continue to get some clips done of Derek Harmon, going to kick back, relax, spend some time with my kids during the draft. But if you guys are looking for somebody that will stream during the draft, Zachary Smith is going to be streaming, so you guys can head over there. I'm sure most of y'all know who that is, but yeah. So if someone like Kevin Winston fell to the 5th round, I mean, Kevin Winston is like my 32nd player on my big board, so he better not fall anywhere near the 5th round, brother, or else I'm gonna like lose my mind. Jaden Higgins, I'm just a little bit lower on Jaden Higgins, although I could get on board with it at 83. So could get on board with it at 83. Yeah, I think a lot of people are really excited about Derek Harmon. I don't think that I've seen a ton of people that have been upset that they passed on Shedeur, to be honest with you. And maybe that's copium. Maybe that's just a lot of people are really excited about the draft capital that they're going to have in next year's class. But I get it for sure. I get it. Hayward played behind Kiesel. Harmon probably won't. Yeah, Harmon's not going to. Harmon, I think he's going to start early, compete for a starting job early. He's going to play early. My guy Darwin saying sleeper Dante Thornton 4.3 40-yard dash. Yeah, Thornton only runs 2 routes. He runs goes and in breakers like slants, glances. But man, he can really burn. And they showed some interest in him. Zach Azani was at the pro day, I believe. So yeah, that would be a day 3 guy that I would keep in mind. I mean, maybe he goes day 2. I could see it just with the speed. Teams typically reach on that stuff. So, all right. I have to hop off here. I really sincerely appreciate your all's continued support. I hope I was able to answer a lot of your all's questions. Follow along on Twitter. I'll be tweeting out my thoughts throughout night 2. Whoever the Steelers take, whether it be in the 2nd round, 3rd round, like I will have a recap. If you haven't listened to the video on Derek Harmon, that is up on the channel, so you guys can go look at that. My top 100 big board I will update the link in the description of this video, like I said, but I'll be tweeting out all of my thoughts on these players. Wrote about Derek Harmon, full scouting report for SteelersNow.com as well. So whatever you guys are looking for in terms of the draft content, I got y'all covered, and I'll be back. We will stream. I'm being serious. We will stream if we get one of the players I really mess with at 83. So, and it's a Friday night. I know y'all don't. Most of y'all hopefully don't have work in the morning. At least I hope for you guys. You're all safe. We will stream. We get somebody that I really mess with. We'll go live. If not, I'll just at least have a recap video to give you guys my thoughts on the players, the value, kind of my scouting notes and everything. So, as always, I really appreciate you guys' continued support, and I will check you guys very soon. Peace and love.